Now that we've got our sand put together like it's supposed to be, we can start molding parts. And this is the pattern. When I'm finished with this exact part will be made in copper. They're backing plates for welding thin material. So this is some of the equipment we'll be using for this. This entire thing is called a flask. It has two parts. It has a cope, that's the top, and it has a drag, that's the bottom. We have these boards. You'll see what they're for in a minute. And of course we also have various other tools and shapes that we're going to use. I'll explain these as I go into things. So the first thing we want to do is actually flip this upside down so that in the mold our parts would be like so. It'll become apparent what I'm doing as I go. Flip that upside down. I situate my patterns in the bottom here. And now we take the sand. We have to riddle it, which basically just means sieve it. Run through a sieve to get anything out that I might not want. But it's, again, there's machines for this. My sand is a touch wet. But it also works, since I know my sand's pretty clean, to just crumble it up in my hands as I throw it in. Get a good layer in there and just kind of smush it down lightly at first. And then we're going to pack the sand in on top of it. Again, a little deeper. Now we're going to take a hammer and start packing the sand in. Okay, we've almost got it full. And this last bit, you want to pack it completely to the, well, the top. That's really the bottom. So another handful. Because this will support the whole mold. What I've got to do, pack it down tight. Get all the corners. Pretty good. Now again, you want a very clean floor for what I'm about to do. There we go. And now that I have this board here, and there's our patterns. And now we take the top, as it were. Now we're going to use talcum powder as parting dust. to keep the two halves from sticking when I pack the sand in. There we go. And now we have several ways of doing this part. Let's see. I have to make some way for the metal to get in, and that's called a sprue. That's what these are for. So to do that, you put it where you want it to be, and then you start filling sand around it. Of course, you can cut them in after as well. I just prefer to do it this way. Get my sand back up here. And in addition to that, we need a vent. I prefer to cut those in later because the hydrostatic pressure, I'll explain it, but while I'm actually casting it, when you pour metal in here, it can trap air in the mold, so it has to have a vent over here for the air to come out so that it fills the void correctly. So I'll get more sand in here, get my other sprue. And then fill it to the top, just like the other half. Use the hammer handle in the tighter areas. Okay, we've got it full, and we pack the top down good and tight. So we have to roll it over again, or at least the top half. Now I use a smaller hammer for areas like this. You want to make sure you get around the edges and the corners, because that's where most of the strength in the mold is. And then when you've got it pretty well done, I don't mind if this is a little lower than the boards in case I spill. But then we give these a little turn, pull them out. Here's where the trick is. You have to lift this straight up and off. And I've got another board here so that I can do what I'm going to do with it. And then I want to come straight off. And there we see what we've got. Now a few things I need to do. One, of course, is to unplug that hole. So I'll just stick this back in and very lightly chase that hole back out, like so. Also, at this point, I'm going to put my vents in. And we're through. Now, this is what this brush is for. Because I don't want that inside my mold. Just brush it away. brush the little things off too. I don't want to divot in my parts. I'll do that for all 4 of my vents. Okay, now that we've got the underside cleaned up, there's some work to do on the top. Basically, what I do is take my knife here, my finger, and just smooth that up so nothing falls back in. Then I take a knife or something and I cut a funnel shape in the top of the sprue. And this facilitates pouring the metal in easier. And I smooth it up with my finger. Now inside the mold we have these patterns, and you'll notice this little hole. You put a rod or something in there and you wiggle it to break it loose, like so, and then you can pop out your pattern, leaving a cavity. And now I'm going to cut in gates so that the shaft of metal coming down reaches 2 at a time. So it's pretty much just cutting this in and then removing it. And then we can kind of huff the sand out of the way. And I'm also going to cut a well at the bottom. And what that does is it gives any turbulence from the metal someplace to go, because that piece will get trimmed off anyway. Just slide this in. And again, I'll just smooth it up with my fingers. There we go. Top back on, and these blocks are situated so that it only goes on one way. There's reference marks. The trick here is to go as straight up and down as possible, like so. Now this one's ready to go. All I have to do, get it near the furnace and weight it down so it doesn't float the top off.